Congresswoman, thank you so much for doing this with us. We're here at the Young Women's Leadership Summit. You just spoke on stage. Talk to me about your decision to come here, what this event means to you and your message to all the young ladies here.
Listen, this event it's incredible. It's energy amongst principled, like-minded conservatives. And the thing that I love is that, yes, we're all young women, but we're not here because we check a box. We're here because we love our country and we want to make a difference. And that's really what it comes down to, is a group of people who want to get involved and make a positive difference in their community and their country. And that's what I love about it, is it's all love. There's no hate. It is just a warm, welcoming place to be. And when you look out in the crowd and you see every single state represented, different ages, backgrounds, you get optimism and hope for our country. And being up there close and personal in Nancy Pelosi's face, it's easy to get depressed real quick, but coming here, it's rejuvenating.
Yeah, no, hope and optimism, things that we definitely need, especially when we get outside of these walls.
Yeah.
We're in Biden's America. What are the things, there's so many things, and we could just talk about inflation, gas prices, there's so many topics here. What are the issues that your constituents are saying, look, this, and this, these are the real issues that are important. It's not Pride Month, it's not, whatever issue that the Biden administration might be focusing in on. What are the issues that are really hitting home for your constituents?
I actually spend a lot of time back home in the district, and it is continually the things that are talked about around the kitchen table. And we all know you can't go down the street without tripping over one of Biden's crises, right? That are all of his own doing. It could be crime, it could be opioids, it could be the border crisis that is bleeding into every single town in America. It really is at the kitchen table affecting everyday Americans. And I've got constituents that are having to make the decision between, do I pay for gas or groceries? How do I make rent at the end of the month when inflation is over 8%? And, these are really, really tough conversations. They're worried about what their kids are learning in school. They're worried about crime in their neighborhoods as Democrats work to defund police. It's things that are really, really close to home. And when you look at what Biden's talking about and working on, that's not what people back home care about. It's about, are gas prices affordable? Are we going to be able to put food on the table? Are we going to be able to afford to get our kids through school? It's really to the basics right now. And the thing that's most, I think, troubling is that the Democrats seem to have no clue. But that's what you get when you have well-connected political elites and limousine liberals in the White House.
Yeah, you said, just putting food on the table for your kids. That is not something that I personally, as a young mom, would think we would be having this conversation in 2022. Can I find baby formula? I know that's been a topic that you've been really following. Can you just talk about I know you took some photos, you went down, you've been on this.
Yeah.
And it's an issue that many people were not on, and now everyone is suffering.
Yeah, that's the thing that to me is just so crazy, this wasn't something that just poof, magically happened overnight. This was months and months in the making. And of course, this is the own doing of the Biden FDA. And there's several layers here. So when you unpack it, really what it comes down to is that the Biden FDA shut down the nation's largest baby formula manufacturer with no plan in place to backfill the 43% they make up in the marketplace. So you have no plan. You think that American moms and dads aren't going to miss nearly half of the nation's supply of baby formula? And then when things really start to get tight, it comes out from Border Patrol agents that they can't even get formula for their grandchildren and their children 5 miles down the road. But then you go to the processing center in McAllen, Texas, and they're unloading it out of the back of tractor trailers. That to me, for illegals. And they're like, listen, no one's saying that we don't have a responsibility to take care of babies in U.S. custody. And that's what the left wants us to, they want to paint that picture that we're heartless and cruel. But the thing that this exemplified was America last. Because the Biden administration has no clue what they're doing. Biden himself admitted that he didn't know about the baby formula crisis. But the thing that's most concerning is the FDA and CDC said in March, after their investigation, there was no scientific link through their investigation to what was found in the plant and what was found in the infant formula that was tainted. No scientific link. Yet they kept the plant shut down. It took Border Patrol agents speaking out, basically becoming whistleblowers for this administration to pop up and say, oh, we actually need to do something now. But then it's worse because they lied. They never had a plan. They never had a plan, and their answer was, oh, we need to spend more money. And that's why I voted no for giving them more money, because they already have $120 million to fix this problem already. Right. But with the Democrats, they never let a crisis go to waste.
And with all of these crises, with all these solutions that we're seeing, it seems like it's the people that they claim to be trying to protect the most, lower income, people that are disadvantaged, that are suffering the most.
Yeah.
I mean, has anyone explained why that is? And it's not just on this topic. It's on immigration. It's on gas. Being able to put gas in your car, that's not an issue for people of the higher, tax income brackets.
Yeah. Well, that's again, you have people in Washington like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden. These are the limousine liberals. They aren't filling up their own gas tanks. I don't think Nancy Pelosi's filled up her own gas tank in 40 years. It's really easy to talk about gas prices or not when you've never filled up your own tank. It's very easy for you to say, oh, we can defund the police when you have private armored security and you're driving around in a reinforced limousine. They have no clue what it's like to be an average American in Biden's America. No clue. And their policies are designed to empower the well-connected and the elites. If you are middle class, if you are struggling paycheck to paycheck, their policies are hurting you the most. And it's just like this recent announcement to do $6 billion in loan forgiveness for student loans. They cherry-picked which loans they were going to forgive, but then they forgot to tell everyone, oh, and by the way, you're going to be paying higher taxes as a result of this.
Let's talk about a little bit more on that topic. It's a very, there's a lot of arguments to be made on whether or not we should forgive student loans, whether we shouldn't, whether they were unfair. There's so many conversations to be had. What's your ultimate take on whether or not we should forgive student loans? Should we forgive them all? Should we forgive, a certain amount? Should we just say no?
No. This is where personal responsibility comes in. No one forces someone to go to college. Now, we've had a culture that tells everyone and their friends, hey, you are special, you deserve a blue ribbon, and everyone should go to college. That is not true. Not everyone should go to college. But we've created this culture where people get pushed into it. That all aside, you took out those student loans. If you're going to be an adult, you need to be responsible for your actions. And we cannot expect government to bail us out. That is all in the line of what the liberal left wants us to do and build this society that is based on dependency and control. Oh, I will make a decision, basically, is what they're saying. Go out, make decisions, and the government will bail you out. That's not fair, that's not right, and that's not what our country is based on. So if you take out a student loan, it's your responsibility to pay it back. And I don't think that anyone across America should be responsible for one other person who decided, oh, I'm just not going to pay my loans back. It's not my fault that you went and got an underwater basket weaving degree.
Yeah. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about the Second Amendment, gun control. Obviously, there's been some very tragic news in this last few weeks. You're on Capitol Hill.
Yes.
You're hearing these conversations. You're hearing the discussions happening about these, I think there's 8 bills that they're discussing. What can Americans expect to be coming out from Capitol Hill?
So the next few weeks are going to be monumental in American history, because what we are going to see is 8 to 12 different pieces of legislation coming out, and it'll start on Tuesday of next week. Nancy Pelosi has already named these bills horrific things like stop slaughtering our children. Mind you, she is the ultimate champion of abortion and late-term abortion, so I find it extraordinarily hypocritical. But that aside, these bills are designed not to keep our children safe, not to reduce violence. They are designed to take weapons, guns, out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. That's all these bills do. They don't address mental health. They don't address the fact that these shootings are occurring by people who come from broken homes, who have mental illness. This is something that is, to me, the most frustrating thing. We talked about personal responsibility with student loans, right? If you take out a loan, it is your responsibility to pay it back. The guns don't pick themselves up and commit acts of violence. I think a sick person intent on doing harm and evil will find a way to do it with a car, with knives, with whatever means necessary. They're intent on doing harm and evil deeds. they're going to commit it somehow, some way. And guns are just the means by which they do it. So they better think long and hard about what else they're going to start banning if they're going to get serious about this issue. But the issue is not the guns, it's the mental health and the broken families that we're seeing in our country.
On the topic of personal responsibility, I know there's another shooting case in which there's parents that are being, they're being potentially held responsible for the actions of their child. And there's some allegations that they were involved, but in this particular instance, like you mentioned, the Uvalde incident, it looks like there was obvious bad parenting. Should parents be held responsible? Should there be, where do we stop as a society, when it comes to holding the direct relatives responsible for the actions of, their family members?
When it comes to Uvalde, that is going to be a long time of investigations, really digging in and finding all of the different details that go on. And I know everyone is so quick to say, oh, well, this happened and that didn't happen. These types of investigations, they take weeks, months. We will not know the full picture for a while. And so in that particular case, I can't even weigh in responsibly. But talking more broadly about responsibility again, a parent who has a child, you go into that situation knowing that you are responsible for that individual, and you have a responsibility to raise that child as best as possible. If something is not right, if you are not getting the help that your child needs, in this case, this young man, he was extraordinarily disturbed. Why wasn't the parent reaching out, getting help, raising the red flag on this, saying, listen, we need to get him some counseling and some help, this isn't right? That, to me, is negligence. The parents absolutely have a role to play in letting people know what's going on. But again, it comes down to, is this the government's responsibility or is it the parent? We need to get back to individual responsibility because that's where it needs to be. We cannot let the government become the fixer of all problems. That's not the role of government.
So back to these legislations being debated, do you think anything's going to come of this? Do you think that talk to me about that.
This is going to be absolutely a knockdown, drag-out fight. The next few weeks in Washington, D.C., you will see the most intense battle over our Second Amendment that I think we have seen in a very long time, probably in over 50 years. And I am really, really terrified that if we give an inch, they'll take a mile. And if we give up 1 inch of our rights, this will be the domino effect for the rest of our constitutionally held rights. For me, the Second Amendment, it is quite plain, quite simple, shall not be infringed. Not a little bit, not a lot. And so we're going to be having to fight this battle against the liberal media and the leftists in Washington who are going to make the emotional plea to parents saying, don't you want to protect our kids? Well, of course we do. But taking the guns out of law-abiding citizens' hands does not do that. And so we have to make the logical case, a data-driven case, but then we also have to fight fire with fire. And I can point to example after example where ARs and people with guns have stopped acts of violence. And that's the story that needs to be told. So it is going to be all hands on deck the next few weeks. We have got one heck of a battle on our hands.
Are there Republicans that you think are going to be going along with this?
Yes. Unfortunately, we've already seen in the Senate there are a handful of Republicans that are going to play ball with these Democrats, and in their mind they're saying this is sensible gun control. There's nothing sensible about it. It is giving up our rights for a political agenda. So they're violating their oath to the United States Constitution, and I think that history is a wonderful teacher. And if we look back at all the societies in history that have disarmed their citizens, look at how that turned out for them. They're ignoring history.
And what can people do? We have a lot of pro Second Amendment listeners, watchers, followers. It is frustrating when it does feel like the left is always kind of drifting this way and the right's kind of just barely kind of hanging on to the status quo, but ultimately we're headed to the left. What can people do when they're frustrated, when they're looking at the Republicans saying, why aren't we proposing why aren't we arming our teachers? Why aren't we pushing things like that? What's your response to that?
Sometimes it feels like I've got the reins and I'm pulling back and I'm dragging my feet and digging my heels in as much as possible because I do see Republicans just kind of going along with it. And it's what's popular now. That doesn't make it virtuous and it doesn't make it right. And I think that's the most difficult thing about this job is standing in the face of adversity, even when it's coming from your own side. And so when you talk about what people can do, this is the most simple thing, but it's the most effective thing, and it's get on the phones. I am going to be doing a lot of outreach, talking about and breaking down these bills bit by bit, really explaining what these bills do, because there is nothing that a career politician is more terrified of than an educated and motivated constituent. So my job for the next several weeks is to educate constituents all across this country and these activists and encourage them. It takes less than 5 minutes. Call your member of Congress, call your senators, tell them you don't want them to vote for HR, whatever it is. And I'm telling you, once those numbers start ticking up into the hundreds and then the thousands, politicians, well, let's be honest, they're a bunch of chicken shits, and they panic. And that is what we need. We need them to understand that we will not cave when it comes to this issue, and that there is a better, smarter way, pragmatic way to move forward when it comes to curbing violence, but it has absolutely nothing to do with guns.
Switching gears, we've got midterms coming up in November. There's a lot of predictions out there that there's going to be a massive red wave.
Yes.
Probably a hard question. What do you think is Biden's weakest spot?
Biden's weakest spot is that he takes cues from the Easter Bunny.
That was problematic. That's problematic.
That is problematic. Unless who's in the Easter Bunny suit? We don't know. I don't know. Maybe I should dress up as the Easter Bunny. I don't know.
Creative thinking.
I like it. Solutions.
Yes.
You have a guy in the White House who takes cues from the Easter Bunny, shakes hands with invisible people on stage. If it weren't so sad, it would be funny. But more than that, this is dangerous. So you can, like I said, you can cherry pick his failures, but everything that he has done from start to finish, whether it is the failure of the energy policy, the failure to secure the border, the failure to secure our streets by defunding police, the failure to put baby formula on the shelves because his own FDA shut down production. If there was anything that you had a passionate issue about, be it education, crime, jobs in the economy, you can latch on to that because he's failed at everything. There's no one thing that I can say that he has failed at more significantly than his entire tenure. I mean, it's infuriating to me that we are still getting Americans out of Afghanistan. It's infuriating that we are having to call in favors to get baby formula for moms and dads across the country. It's infuriating that there are children being trafficked at the border. I mean, I think anyone with an ounce of common sense, regardless if you're Republican or Democrat, you cannot survive. And quite frankly, we cannot afford another term under President Biden.
Well, your state, Florida, has been a real beacon of hope for many conservatives across this country. Your governor, Ron DeSantis, has really been a figure that people are looking towards in the Republican legislature there. What are some of the lessons that you believe that he's putting out when he's pushing back? Mm-hmm. We don't see that. We don't see that with a lot of other Republican governors out there. But in Florida, we are seeing an actual, a proactive pushback.
Yeah. It's really incredible what has happened in Florida. We're sitting here in Texas, and for the longest time, everyone said, the Lone Star State, this is the beacon of freedom, and it is. But now that shining beacon, that's a sunshine state. Florida equals freedom. And a lot of it is because of the leadership of Governor Ron DeSantis. He has taken a no-nonsense attitude to the governor's mansion and saying, I'm going to do what I intend to do. I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing. And if you try to corrupt the narrative, I'm going to set you straight. So he has really built a reputation on doing what he says he's going to do and following up and then pushing back. And I just think it has been a masterclass for so many other governors around the country of how to effectively lead in the face of adversity. And when you have a population of 22 million-ish people, I mean, you're dealing with a lot of different dynamics, a lot of different cultural poles. I mean, technically, let's be real, Florida could be 3 states, right? Yeah. But you're dealing with just a massive group of people with a lot of different needs, and he has navigated it beautifully. And when you look at really what it comes down to, it's about giving people their rights back, about leaving them alone, getting government out of the way. I think that's the lesson to be learned here, is government is not the answer. And the one-size-fits-all, broad brush government solution of throw more money at it and this will fix the same problem in North Florida as South Florida, that's BS. Get out of the way, let people live their lives, and don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. It's really that simple.
Yeah, we just got a verdict in the very watched Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial, a trial that really did captivate a lot of the nation in a way that I didn't necessarily anticipate it. But it really, it did sort of encapsulate this narrative of believe all women that we've been hearing and being sort of force-fed for years now. Do you have thoughts on that trial and how it concluded? And is the believe all women narrative dead?
Well, I think, no surprise, like most people with common sense, I was Team Johnny in this case. And I know that it really kind of was a big distraction to all the other things that were going on. You had the Clinton case going on at the same time. I think that the left maybe took it as an opportunity to do some things.
The big SCOTUS leak.
Yes, the SCOTUS leak. All these things were going on. But when you look at this case, I mean, this drug on for about a month. And it really got to the heart of, the he said, she said. It was amazing public, theater in the world of Hollywood. And when you really started listening to some of the testimony and some of the clips back and forth from the so-called experts, but you started really seeing the nonsense of it all, right? And how dangerous it is when someone on a major platform comes out and makes a statement like she did, and it proves to be false. His entire life was essentially ruined. He had all different endorsement deals fall out, family members, friends fall out with him. And he even said, he's like, no matter how this turns out, my life is ruined. Because someone makes an accusation like that, and the narrative has always been, you have to believe all women. I think you go back to trust but verify. And this whole trial, it definitely was a trust but verify situation. But do we really trust someone who craps the bed on purpose?
I personally would not.
That's the question I have.
No, no. That was we. There were so many.
I cleaned that up for you.
There were so many moments of that trial that I was just like, "What am I watching?" It felt almost like a Netflix series. It felt like it was like they were trying, and now she's going to countersue, and I'm like, "Oh, this is season 2. This is all, like you said, like a distraction from a lot of really real issues that really matter."
Yes.
And not to say that this, I guess the Me Too does matter, but there are like very big news items, $40 billion to Ukraine, bye-bye, that kind of just
went by the wayside because it was, are you Team Johnny or Team Amber? I mean, heck, I remember going through the drive-thru to get a cup of coffee, and the tip jars were Team Johnny, Team Amber. And there was not a single dollar in the Team Amber jar. I mean, it really captivated the entire nation, really the world, in such a unique, crazy way.
Yeah.
And there were so many moments, like you said. I mean, please tell me you saw the meth mouth doctor.
I saw more than I would like to admit that I saw.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of like snifflings of possibly cocaine happening too.
Strange things.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was awesome, and it was a pleasure to finally meet you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.